I recently purchased these two Thrall 48-foot steel coil cars from Scale Trains. Now these are my first pieces of Scale Trains Rivet Counter rolling stock. Now these cars typically sell for $52.99. I got them during Scale Trains winter sale for $39.99. Now again, getting to be a bad habit, these are outside my 1960 to 1980 time frame, and that these cars were built during the 80s and 90s. But the steel coil car is a pretty unique car. I don't have any in my roster, and I wanted to have a couple. And the sales price seemed like a good deal, so I went ahead and picked up a couple. And you'll notice I have some candy. So Scale Trains came through on the candy. Alright, I got some paperwork. And I got some tape I need to cut. I'm curious to see what level of detail I get with rivet counter cars. Now you can see these cars come with steel coils. Well, first look, the undercarriage looks really nice. Try to think of how to get these out of the packaging without damaging them. Now these steel coils have a little bit of mass to them. The cars came with some extra parts. Got some spare bearing caps. I don't know what these other parts are. I did a little bit of research on the car. And the CTRN reporting marks are for Central of Tennessee Railway and Navigation Company. Now it's kind of interesting that the CTRN was a 25-mile short line, and the trackage was picked up after the Illinois Central abandoned it, and the Central Tennessee Railway and Navigation Company only lasted 8 years. So it's kind of interesting that Scale Trains would choose this car, but then again, Scale Trains has the unique museum scale cars, so maybe it's not. But we have the Central Tennessee Railway and Navigation Company that had an 8-year existence with 25 miles of track. Now, Central Tennessee is a long ways from Arizona. I suppose in the future I could change the reporting marks on these cars, but that's something I'm not even thinking about now. That would be way down the line. I got a lot of things to do before I think about something like that. Primarily, I picked up these cars because I don't have any coil cars, and they were on sale. And I wanted to try Scale Trains Rivet Counter line rolling stock, so these seemed like a couple good cars to pick up. Rolled steel coils started becoming a practice after World War II, when different factories needed a better way to transport steel sheet. Now, having steel sheet cut to a certain length and transporting it would lead for factories to have sheets that were too short or too long, and so the rolled steel became a much better way for factories to get their steel. because they could take the steel and use it in the exact lengths they needed. Steel coils can have material in varying thicknesses from 1/64 of an inch all the way up to 1/4 of an inch. I would imagine anything thicker than 1/4 inch would be difficult to roll. The modern steel coil car got its beginnings in the 1960s when Ford worked with two local railroads, the Detroit, Toledo, and Ironton, and the Chesapeake and Ohio, to come up with a way to transport steel coils to keep the loads from shifting, damaging the coils, and also to keep the steel coils out of the weather. Now this Thrall 48-foot steel coil car, now these were built in the 80s and 90s. They originally had a capacity of 100 tons, but later upgraded the capacity to 125 tons. And one thing that's interesting, if you notice the bracketry on the top of the hoods, that allows for the hoods to be stacked. And the stacking of these hoods on these coil cars is the reason you see so many mix and match hoods on coil cars, because they would load up the car and then just grab whatever hood was next and put it down on top of the car. So it's pretty interesting. Now looking at the hoods, you see the very delicate handrails on the ends and sides, and they're really fine. The bracketry for the handrails is really well done, and you can notice the bolt detail on the brackets for stacking the hoods. Also, the stenciling is really nicely done. These hoods look super nice. I'm wondering if these steel coils are made from aluminum because they have a little bit of mass to them. And it looks like they're assembled from different pieces. So they're not machined out of aluminum round stock. And you can see on the end of the steel coils how there are grooves machined into the coils to simulate the rolled steel. Of course, it also has the bands on there to keep the roll from unwinding. And the car itself has some really nice wood planking detail. Also has some really nice photo etch walkways. Here you can see some of the really nice wood plank detail on the inside of the car. The car in detail looks super good. Got the air hose, uncoupling lever. Scale Trains couplers look pretty good. And a really nicely detailed draft gearbox. Stenciling looks good. And the brake-in looks super nice as well. And you got the brake chain linkage going down from the brake wheel through the platform. Again, nice uncoupling lever details. Draft gearbox, the air hose, the grabs, the nice stenciling. Nicely done. Now I can see some of the parts coming loose. Gonna have to be glued down. And the undercarriage detail is absolutely phenomenal. This is just beautifully done. Here you get some close-up views of the undercarriage for the airline, for the hose, the uncoupling levers, and terrific brake linkage detail. I absolutely love the level of detail here on this car. It looks fantastic. And I love how the airline, the hard line, runs back under the car. We have the rubber hose, but then we also have the hard line that goes under the car. And of course, you can see the photo etch platform. The bottom side of this Thrall 48-foot steel coil car is absolutely phenomenal. It certainly has all the rivet counter detail that we've come to expect. The 6 provided steel coils fit nicely into the trough of the car. I'm going to put the hoods on, see how everything fits. Yeah, the hoods fit without any trouble over the top of the steel coils, and it's got some real heft to it. Just about any type of manufacturing could probably justify having a steel coil car on your layout. I mean, everything from automotive body parts to toaster ovens would use rolled steel for stamping. So if you have a manufacturing facility on your layout, you could probably switch in some steel coil cars. So these cars are pretty cool. And I have to say, for $39.99, it seems like a smoking deal. However, we need to see how they run. So let's get them out on the layout, go for a test drive. The Scale Trains 48-foot Thrall Coil Cars. Pretty nice cars. They're highly detailed. Not perfect. You see I have a little bit of a warping here with the walkway. And the wheels and the truck squeak. So I'm running the cars. They're squeaking every once in a while. It's not a big deal, but something to mention. So overall, I'm pretty happy with them, especially for $39.99. These are my first pieces of rolling stock from Scale Trains Rivet Counter line. I'd have to say if they come out with something else that fits in with what I want to do, I would certainly consider it. So I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you come back and join me again.